Hello, welcome. Today we are talking about outgrowing people and navigating the difficult decision of when it's time to let people go. In this video in particular, we're only going to be discussing romantic relationships and friendships. So I call these our chosen people, so the ones that come into our lives, we can choose whether we keep them or not in our immediate space. I'm not going to be talking about family today because I feel like that's an entirely different dynamic. It's much more complicated and nuanced, so that will be saved for another day. So I want to start off first by saying, whatever is calling you to watch this video or is bringing up this feeling inside of you, I'm confused, I don't know what to do right now, the answer already lives inside of you. You already know, with whoever you have in mind, what you're supposed to do. You already know 100%. The thing that happens is we get this communication from our body, from our soul. It's telling us what to do. It's probably the reason that you have this urge coming up in the first place. But we get very fearful, and fear can distort the communication that we're getting, make us feel very confused, make us second guess ourselves, so that we don't trust our intuition and the guidance that we hear. But nonetheless, the guidance is there, you can hear it. It's more just about clearing out the fear, clearing out the noise, and allowing the communication to come through untainted, unfiltered, in its pure state. So this just means that you need to cultivate more stillness in your life. You need to take more time in silence. If you sat down in silence, connected with your body, and just asked yourself, what am I supposed to do in this situation? And just waited, the answer will come up. It's just being able to create enough space to hear it, but you do know. I remember when I was wanting to leave a 4-year relationship that I was in, I knew I wanted to leave after 6 months, and I stayed for another 3.5 years because I just kept on ignoring this feeling that I had coming up. And once I did leave, I felt like low-key embarrassed at myself for how much I ignored the guidance. And in hindsight, I realized I knew the whole time. I just was in denial. I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to go through the experiences of pain and guilt for leaving someone and all of those things that we can feel. But the truth was, I knew straight away. The first moment that that feeling came up, I had the option to listen or to ignore it, and I ignored it for 3.5 years. So we need to start connecting to our bodies, listen, and be honest with ourselves, because we really do have the path, the guidance is there. So we will talk more about all of the ways to know when it's time to let someone go and how to let someone go. But I want you to come away from this remembering and knowing that no amount of videos, books, or advice from other people can tell you what you need to do. You have to listen to what your body and your mind and your soul is telling you, because it's guiding you and it's there to help you. So whilst we're all on our spiritual evolution journey, we're not all going at the same speed or at the same pace. Some people learn their life lessons much faster than others, and some people are still not aware that there are lessons that they're meant to be learning. So you will interact with people throughout your life where you come into each other's lives, and there will be moments where this happens, where you learn lessons from your situations, and other people are not learning the lessons from their situations. But one thing that's really beautiful that happens is everyone has a gift to give to each other, sometimes numerous gifts. And as we cross paths, we exchange these gifts, whether it be giving us more awareness, giving us light on our shadows, so bringing up our triggers, our traumas. They bring them out of us for us to see and to heal. It could be wisdom that they share with us, or love from their presence that they give to us. It could be so many different things. And this makes it so that every connection that we have was never pointless, was never wasted, was never meaningless. However, this doesn't mean that every connection that we have in our life is meant to stay forever. Sometimes you're meant to cross paths, you exchange the gifts, the wisdom that you have to exchange with each other, and then it's time to move on. And I find it's the ones that we've had much longer time with that are more difficult to let go of, because we feel like we have so much history with them, or we've invested a lot of time or love and energy into the connection, and the thought of letting them go is really painful. You have all your memories, you have all the times where you really and truly loved them and laughed and shared such beautiful moments together, and the thought of now feeling you've outgrown them and it's time to move on is truly heartbreaking. But I want to emphasize that no relationship is wasted. No connection is wasted. There was always a reason that you cross paths, and the gifts that you... I'm sorry, I feel like my cat is gonna ask for me to open that door. So if we understand that no relationship is wasted, that can help give us a lot of peace, knowing that you can set someone free and still keep them deeply in your heart. That you can still hold those memories and the love that you once had for them, or still do have for them. It can still exist and you can still hold it, whilst also knowing that you're going down a different path right now, and where you're going, they are not willingly coming with you. And when someone is not willingly coming with you, you cannot drag them, you cannot force them to come where you're going, and nor should you prevent yourself from going where you're supposed to go out of fear of wanting to stay with certain people in your life, because that is dishonoring yourself, and that is not being very loving and kind and considerate to yourself and your life. So one thing that this scenario really helps cultivate within us is detachment and honoring our authentic path. There'll come a point where you notice, if you are on a self-development journey, you're doing your inner work and you're healing, and or you're on a spiritual journey and you're really working on cultivating stillness, connecting with your source, and all of the beautiful things on this path, you'll notice throughout your life you may be having to let people go repeatedly. This isn't a one and done kind of situation. Especially if you're starting off with a relatively large friendship group, for example, you may notice it keeps on happening, spaced out over time, or when new people come in and it happens again, it happens. And being able to become comfortable with allowing the natural flow of people coming into your life and leaving your life, that every time someone does come into your life, you cherish it, you're present with it, you love it with all of your heart, and you love them with all of your heart. And then if and when that moment comes where it's time to move on, you have enough space and groundedness inside of you to peacefully, lovingly let them go. And Of course, it's always sad, truly. I don't think I've experienced letting someone go and it not cause some kind of grief and heartache. But there's this higher knowing, this deeper knowing that this was the right thing for you to do, and that brings you confidence and clarity that you are being true to your authentic path. That no matter what, you don't let yourself come off of your path that your soul is guiding you on. And so if this means, say you outgrow the partying life, where you are coming from a scenario where people are doing a lot of drugs, drinking a lot, gossiping a lot, doing reckless things like kicking over people's mailboxes or just these kinds of activities, and now say you start noticing that you do not wish to partake in these anymore. You're growing, you're developing, you're changing, but the people around you still very much enjoy doing these things. You have to honor this space that is being created. If you are feeling called to go somewhere else, you have to honor it, and you have to go where your soul is calling you to go. And I really want to preface that this journey of healing and growing and outgrowing people isn't a path of loneliness. So at first, it can feel lonely because whilst you're evolving, you will notice there's a lot of shedding going on, a lot of releasing. And this may cause you to have a period where you don't have many people in your life for the moment. You've let go of 10 friends and ended your relationship, for example. And there's no one else left now. Or maybe you've got 1 or 2 friends that you were able to still resonate with. There may be a period of loneliness. But this is such a gift because it allows you time with yourself to gain more clarity on who you are and who you're becoming, to have space to heal and allow more stillness and quietness in your life for you to spend time with God, with Source, because that is where God is in the silence. And so if you want to connect deeper and you want to connect to your higher self, you need more space, you need more quiet. And this is often what happens. We shed and we let go of so many people, and it allows us that space to sit in the stillness and connect inwardly with our soul and with God and figure out who we're becoming and where we're going. And a really beautiful thing that will start happening is, as you do keep on being honest with who you are and where you're going, as you raise your vibration to a different frequency, you'll start connecting and calling in people who are also on a growth path, who are developing and expanding who they are. You will find people on your path as you go. And so you'll end up having people around who, one, you resonate with deeply in your soul, to your core. Friendships, relationships so deep and beautiful that you would never want anything else other than this quality of connection. And the other beautiful thing with this is that because you're both growing, the chances of you being able to stay together is much higher because you're both evolving. It's not you evolving and they stay still, so this keeps happening. You're now doing this. And it may not be the exact same journey. You're not going to the exact same place, but you're both going up. You're both growing together, and it's inspiring each other to grow. And when you build that kind of friendships and finding your partner, is so worth it. You would never want to go back to feeling fearful of letting people go when it's time, if you knew the beautiful things that were still to come. So let's dive into the first scenario, which is when you notice people's disrespectful behaviours that you no longer wish to partake in. So as you are now growing, as I said, you may notice there are things that you once tolerated or once engaged in willingly that you now no longer want to engage in. And this is just a very natural thing that happens as you evolve. Behaviours that you may have thought were not that bad, and say you've had a friendship or a relationship that's 5 years long, and you allowed it, you didn't even notice it was bad. But now you have started cultivating more self-love and more self-respect, and the things that you wish to tolerate has shrunk. So now you have your partner or these friendships that are giving you certain behaviors that you once tolerated, so they believe is fine to keep doing to you, but you're like, no, this is not what I want anymore. So when you start noticing you're outgrowing people in this way, what you need to do is first have a conversation with your loved ones, because clearly you do have some emotions for these people. You love them, you care for them, you have history and a relationship with them. So you need to sit down and have a very loving and open conversation with them. Tell them how you're feeling, let them know your new boundaries. And if they are able to hold that, see you, and say, thank you for bringing this to me. I know, and now I know that this makes you upset or uncomfortable. I won't do this anymore, I'm so sorry. And they're willing to listen, willing to grow. Then who knows? Give it time. And as I say, just use your discernment. Every single situation will be so different. You can't use a certain blueprint as such to navigate your relationships. So just have an open and honest conversation with them. Watch their response. Be mindful of the 2-week I'll do better. I've noticed there is often a 2-week improvement with some people when you bring them something that you would like to be different. You've given them new boundaries. When they're fearful of losing you, they may improve their behavior for about 2 weeks, and they'll be the dream partner or an amazing friend. But after that 2 weeks, because the change didn't come naturally from within them, it didn't get birthed, it wasn't birthed from their own desire to evolve, their habits will come back. Their old habits will take over and they'll go back to their default mode, and you'll be back to square one. I think if this happens, it's worth allowing that to just play out, because then you really do have more clarity afterwards. If you're really nervous and doubtful of whether you're going to make a mistake by letting them go, allowing that to play out will give you clarity, because you know, okay, this is not coming from within them, so it's not going to be a lasting change. They don't have that growth mindset switched on just yet. That's completely fine. But I do not want to tolerate these lies or disrespect or whatever it is anymore. And so I'm going to have to just lovingly let them go. And of course, if they straight up disrespect you, yell at you, call you names, any of these kinds of things, your answer is pretty clear there anyway. If you are still struggling to know what to do, here are 3 questions that you can ask yourself. The first question is, when I think of the person I am becoming, is this what true love or true friendship looks like to them? Would the person you're becoming tolerate these treatments or these circumstances? And remember that what you are not changing, you are choosing. So the person that you are becoming, would they tolerate these kinds of relationships now? Because if the answer is no, and you are devoted to your true self and your authentic path, maybe they're not coming with you the whole journey. The second question is, how do they make me feel now? How do they make me feel now? When you've had a long relationship with someone, it might be over a decade, when you were someone else 10 years ago, you may have been the perfect resonance, such good friends, so made for each other, soulmates, romantically or friendships, perfect resonance. So of course, you're going to have really, really fond, beautiful, loving memories with this person. But now, if you've been growing, and if they have not, or if you've been growing in two very different directions, you may feel like this now. And so the question I ask you is, how do they make you feel now? And what I want you to specifically pay attention to is, do they make you feel contracted or expanded? Do you feel drained when you spend time with them? Do you leave the interaction, say you've spent the day together and you're on the drive home, or you're on a train home, or they've just left your house, and do you go, oh my gosh, I need to decompress, I need space, I need silence, that was draining, that was too much, like that was heavy, just their presence now just drains the life out of me? Do you feel contracted? Or do you feel expanded, where you're so excited to see them? When you're with them, there's just this light, this glow, you're energizing each other. And then when you leave, there's like a skip in your step. You're just so happy, you can't wait to see them again. There's someone who really lights you up, makes you feel so seen, so loved, so connected. Because you can really tell where your friendships and where your relationships are at just by paying attention to whether you feel contracted or expanded when you're with them, or when you're about to be with them, or once you've just left them. So how do you feel with them now? Ignore the memories for a moment. And the third question is, if I knew that I could have better, would you leave? If you knew that you could have better, would you leave? So if you knew that on the other side of this relationship, or on the other side of this friendship group, you could have your dream relationship and your dream friendship group, would you leave? Because fear and the fear of being alone can paralyze us and make us make decisions that we only make because we don't believe that we deserve better or can attract better. But if you knew, you moved as if you knew you could have closer, better relationships, would you leave? One thing that's really important is, when you are saying yes to things, you're tolerating behaviours, you're allowing certain dynamics, and you're hanging out in spaces that you do not feel connected to, but you just don't want to be left out, you don't want to be alone. You're saying energetically, this is what I want, because this is what I'm doing. My behaviour is demonstrating who I am and what I want. But when you say no, and you're willing to be alone, you're willing to let people go when you know it is not in resonance with your authentic path. When you say no, you are communicating to the universe, I'm willing to trust you. I'm willing to make space, and I'm willing to make space to allow the new to come in. And it's so important to keep this in mind, that we are constantly saying yes and no to things, which is constantly communicating with God. And that is what is communicating to the quantum field and pulling in every life experience and every person that comes into your path. So you need to get very brave and very clear and intentional with what you are communicating through your actions, through what you're tolerating, and through your devotion to yourself and to your growth and your learning and your development. One thing that I know can be the biggest struggle, especially for those of us who are very gentle in nature, very caring for the people that we have in our life, is the fear of hurting them. The fear of leaving someone, abandoning them is how it feels. But one thing that I've definitely come to realize is, for example, someone could be treating you relatively bad, really not honoring the friendship or the relationship, and they might not be doing it intentionally. They might not have any malice in them at all, but nonetheless, they yell at you all the time, or they disrespect your time, they lie to you, or whatever it might be. We tend to rob people of their consequences because we know how horrible it feels when we upset people. We don't want to upset people. And so sometimes when people do us wrong, or they disrespect us, or it's just not okay, we can try and take people's consequences away from them by saying, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, or oh no, I won't leave them, I don't want to abandon them, I don't want to leave them in their confusion and pain, they don't mean to do this, so I shouldn't leave, I should try harder, I should love them more. And I do believe that we should always hold love and forgiveness for everyone and everyone that is in our life. And I do believe that everyone is innocent in their core, and that their behaviors, they are not 100% aware. It's their ego running, their constructs, their pain, the stories that get told, the behaviors they learn and have not questioned yet. I do believe that, but at the same time, if we actually rob people from their consequences, we are not doing them a service. When you decide something is not for you anymore, and you have the strength and the love to leave, you actually allow them to have the space and the time to do some reflecting, to actually go inwards and question, okay, what happened? They may genuinely be very upset that you've left, but it allows them to look at the situation. What did they do? What did I do? How did our connection, what was it that was causing the friction or causing the pain? It allows them to actually have a catalyst to start looking inwards and questioning things, which is one of the biggest gifts that we can give to people. And now I'm not saying go around dishing out consequences. I'm just saying don't rob people of their natural consequences and natural reflections that come to them. And so it is more loving to set boundaries, to be honest, and to leave when it is time to leave. It's loving for yourself and it's loving for them, because everyone has an opportunity to learn and grow. No one is staying small and stuck and fearful. There's expansion that can happen for everyone when you are brave, when you set your boundaries, and when you choose love, because you're choosing yourself, you're choosing to love yourself, and that chooses also to love them. Another thing is that you might actually be taking up space where you are not meant to be taking up space any longer. There might be someone who's waiting to come into your loved one's life, but because you are still holding that position in their life, you're actually stopping them from having a deeper connection with someone. When you stay in a relationship too long, you've outgrown them, it's not working anymore, but you're scared to leave. What if when you leave and they have that time to reflect and look inwards, maybe it's a few months of them growing, looking inwards, and now they are a resonance to the person they're actually supposed to be with. And if you really cared about them and really loved them, you would want that for them. And so sometimes our fear of letting people go is actually quite selfish, and we're taking up space where we're no longer meant to take up space. So we need to become really, really okay with looking at the whole picture, zooming out a bit and realizing people need their growth and their consequences and their natural lessons that come up. And there is an organizing principle going on that is calling in people and letting people go naturally. And when we cling and hold on to people longer than we're meant to, we are obstructing and dragging out the natural order of things. Your partner finding their real partner, you finding your real partner, friendships that are meant to fall and grow. Allow it to just come in and go out without too much resistance. The detachment is so important and so valuable here, to allow the organization to just happen naturally. And so let's talk about the second scenario that you might start facing. So as you're at the beginning of your healing journey, doing the inner work, your spiritual journey, the first scenario is probably what's going to come up the most, where you notice all of the disrespect you've tolerated, you start moving away from self-destructive behaviors and really ego-based behaviors that you just don't have interest in anymore. You'll notice a lot of shedding of this. And this might be the thing that you are dealing with for a long time, until you reach that place where there is not a single person in your life that causes you stress, that straight up disrespects you, or that you don't resonate with. You only have people in your life now that you truly love, truly connect with deeply, truly resonate with. And so this is where it starts getting actually a little bit more difficult to navigate, because there's no distinct right or wrong happening. There's just the natural, innocent change of people. So you might have, say you've got 3 friends left and you love them so much. And as time's going, another year passes of you being on your journey, and you've changed so much again. You just keep evolving. You evolve so fast you can't even keep up with it yourself. You just keep evolving and changing. And you've noticed that it's not that they're not growing, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong, but it's just that you're just doing this. You're just going in completely different directions. And this is where it can be really, really difficult, because you start feeling the drift. You start noticing that when you hang out, you're not connecting so deeply anymore. You notice when you start talking about something that you're really excited and passionate about, it's met with, oh, that's cool. And you're thinking, oh wow, like that was such an important and inspiring topic to me. I could talk about this for hours, and it didn't get met with anything. And then likewise the other way around, they're talking to you about something so excited, really passionate, and you're kind of feeling this, you really don't know what to say, but just like oh, that's cool. And this can start happening, and again, it's at no one's fault. It's just natural change. You're just going in different directions, and this can happen with the friendships that you've had since school. Maybe they're 10, 15 years long, and you're such good friends and you treat each other so well, but you're just growing in completely different directions. This one, I believe, is harder to navigate because it's not black and white. But there are two ways you can handle this. The first way is one that I have heard circulating, and I'm going to share it with you just because it might be the one that works for you right now. And that is the idea of having rings in your social life. So you have your center ring, your inner circle, your closest friends, you know, the ones that you'll cry with and so excited to share your happy news and that you bare your soul to, and you know, your close friends. And then you have your friends that maybe you just go to fun events with, You don't necessarily call them up on the phone to talk about the deep stuff, but you love hanging out and you can go and do the fun things together. And then you have circle, can go out all the way back to acquaintances. And the advice is to allow people to drift into whatever ring they naturally drift into. So it means you don't have to fully cut them off, but you allow them to just kind of fade into just their natural space on the rings. This is one way you can go about it if that feels good for you. For me personally, that is exhausting. I don't have time for that. I don't see the point in that. For me right now, it's my inner circle and then a circle of perhaps business interactions and connections and networking where you truly care for each other, you add value to each other's lives, you work together, but you're perhaps not calling them on the phone to cry about things or having them come around for sleepovers, but you still have true value that you exchange in each other's lives. For me, it's inner circle, business connection circle, and then truly I don't have anything else. I don't feel the need for anything else. I don't want to nourish relationships that I don't enjoy hanging out with you. I don't want to keep you there just for the sake of keeping you there. I don't want to keep the ties and the strings to people out of fear of letting them go. Kitty's opening the door by himself this time. If you know that you're just hanging on because you're just scared to let go, just look at that. Ask yourself honestly, do you want to be doing fearful actions? Do you want fear to have a place in your actions? Because my answer is no, I don't. Anything that is from fear, I consciously reject. I say no thank you. I only want to move from love, and I think it's more loving to let people go with love than to cling and hold on. You can do with that what you will. As I say, always ask yourself. Only you will know what is the right answer, and every single situation will be different. So if you go through this 10 times, each time check in with yourself. Don't just do what you did the first 2 times with the 4th person, because it's gonna be different. The circumstances will be different. So you have to check in, truly feel what you believe is the right thing, the most loving thing for everyone involved for you to do. Don't ever fall back into default mode. This is a life of intentional, conscious living. So no more default, no more just following a blueprint. You have to check in, you have to ask, and you have to move intentionally in your life. So the question is, how do you actually end a friendship? Or how do you actually end a relationship? Because maybe you know the answer now. You've asked yourself these questions, you've sat with yourself and you're like, okay, I know I need to let them go, but how? How do I actually do that? And the truth is, you just have to have a conversation with them and rip the band-aid off, essentially. If you have come to the decision that this is what you want to do, sometimes, you can anticipate and guess there might be some resistance. If you go to someone and you let them know that this is not working for them, this is not working for you anymore, and that you've had conversations and nothing is changing, and this is just something very important to you, and you need to do this for yourself. And if things do change, then maybe we can reach out, maybe we can talk again. But until then, I need to go on my own path. I need to honor myself. Please take care, I love you. And you let them go. When I had to do this with a 14-year-long friendship, one of my best friends in the whole world, I had to let her go because of repeated behaviours that I no longer wanted to tolerate. And loving, true conversations would go so well. We'd hug and we'd say I love you, and it was such an understanding conversation. but then a couple days later the same behavior is there. There was no change, it was just a loving conversation, but then as if it never happened 2 days later. And I got to the point where I had to say, okay, this really is important to me. There's nothing else I can do now. I've spoken, we've spoken, I've bared my heart, I shared honestly, openly. There's nothing else I can do here. I know I need to leave because this is harming me, it's causing me stress, it's halting my own growth, and so I have to leave. And so you can have that conversation, and there may be, you have a week of silence afterwards, and then they'll try and call you or try and get in touch somehow, and you have to stay strong because you have to stick to what you said with your boundaries, because you need to build that self-trust. If you keep going back, like if you manage to rip the band-aid off, but then you're in the grieving stage and you can't handle the grieving, they call you and you cave, like you are breaking your self-trust. You're not sticking to your word, you're not sticking to your boundaries. If the behavior of the person has truly not changed, and the truth is it probably hasn't, you need more time than say a month for that to really solidify. I would respect someone more if they actually went away quietly for 6 months, a year, and then tried to call me, than trying to call me a week, 2 weeks, a month later. You need to be able to sit in the pain, sit in the grieving, and know that just because it hurts doesn't mean you made a wrong decision. If you made that decision, it was because it was the right decision for you at that time. This was the right decision, and you need to be able to stand strong with it. Let yourself grieve. Friendships, relationships, whatever it is, any connection that has severed, that you have closed, that you've let go of, will break your heart. It will hurt. So let yourself grieve. Honor the friendship, honor the relationship. Hold them in your heart, forgive them, love them, forgive yourself. And see where you're going, see your path, and feel that light that will come up. Because you're doing this because you can feel the light is somewhere and you're following it. It will feel exciting even though there's the sadness. You'll feel expanded and free even though there's the sadness. And being able to hold both of these experiences at the same time is really invaluable. You should really practice being able to hold two things at the same time. And if it helps at all, I've let go of many people in my life and I have not regretted any of them, but I have grieved all of them. And sometimes it's a year later and I will still cry over this person not being in my life anymore because of how close we were. I still cry. When it's their birthday, I still cry because we spent every birthday together for 14 years. It's okay to have this still come up, and no, I do not wish to open that gate again still, because I do not wish to have those behaviors back in my life, have that environment back in my life. I am happy with where I'm going, who I'm becoming, but I still love you and I hope you're doing well. That's the energy you end up holding, and eventually maybe you don't cry anymore, and it can be their birthday and it doesn't come up at all anymore, but it's okay if it does. We're human, we have emotions, we care for people deeply, but we need to be able to let people go, move on when it's time. And as a final note, it's really important to hold people with love and forgiveness when you do let them go. When someone's hurt you, or maybe it didn't end so well, and maybe you feel guilty towards yourself for leaving them, having an energy of love and forgiveness for everyone involved is so healing, so releasing, and it actually helps cut the ties of karma, the strings, the invisible energetic strings that keep you tethered to each other. It's so important to hold them with that love and understand that they gave you a gift, whatever it was, some knowledge, an experience, a trigger, something that you were able to use, and I'm certain that you did that for them too. So always know, as I said, it's never a waste. It was never pointless. It was special, it meant something, and there was a reason that you were in each other's lives. And to be able to just hold that, to be able to have a detachment and space and just allow it to be what it is, to be able to hold two things at the same time is such an important thing to start practicing, to start embodying. And if you would like a bit more guidance on how to do this, I will link a cord cutting meditation video for you where I guide you through being able to forgive others, forgive yourself, and cut the karmic cords that link you to each other. And you'll know if there are karmic cords if when you think about them, you feel anger, resentment, deep sadness. Not just, loving sadness, but like that deep sadness. Any form of depression, regret, where they keep popping into your mind every day or every week or every month. You still have karmic ties to them energetically, and you need to cut them so that you can release each other and truly move on with your life and just hold love for them. So no more crying when you think about them, or really resentful emotions coming up when you think about them. So I'll link you to this video. We'll go through it together. We will clear out, cut the cords, and be able to be on this journey a little bit more peaceful, allowing people to come in and go out. I wish you the best of luck when this moment comes up and it's time to let someone go. And I will see you in the next one. I love you loads. Bye.